Henry the Green Engine is the sixth book of the Railway series, and was first published in 1951. It was written by the series creator Wilbert Awdry, and illustrated by Clarence Reginald Dalby. Over 35 years later, all 5 of its short stories were adapted into 4 short episodes of Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends. How faithful were these adaptations? Let's see if we can spot the differences. Four of these 5 stories were adapted for television in 1984.
I suffer dreadfully, and no one cares.
Oh, rubbish, Henry. You don't work hard enough.
In the book's first illustration, Henry, James and the Fat Controller are shown to be stood just outside one of Sodor's small stations, while Percy shunts in the background. In the episode, the scene takes place at the engine's shed, and James leaves before Sir Topham Hatt comes to speak to Henry.
You've had lots of new parts, and new paint too, but they've done you no good. If we can't make you better, well, we must get another engine instead of you. Sorry.
Due to his small firebox, Henry cannot make enough steam, and this is making him feel ill. Arriving at Edward's station, Edward himself takes over from Henry, who moves onto a siding so he is out of the way. In the book, Henry remains at the platform while his crew and the Fat Controller discuss what to do. The illustration shows them talking inside Henry's cab, whereas in the episode, only the fireman remains inside, without swiping sweat from his forehead.
The other engines can manage. They've got big fireboxes. But Henry's is small, and can't make the heat. Now, with Welsh coal, he'd be different.
Well, it's expensive, but Henry must have a fair chance.
An engine is shown to be watching Henry while his crew try him out with Welsh coal. Although he is never identified, based on his shape, it is likely either James or Edward. The coal works well, and Henry can now pull his trains with ease. He surprises Thomas by just how fast and confident he is. In the episode, Henry travels forward in front of Thomas, but in Dalby's illustration, Henry is going in the opposite direction.
Hello, lazy bones. Where have you been? I can't wait for dawdling tank engines like you. Goodbye.
This story starts with an introduction to Sodor's harbour and the train transporting fish nicknamed the Flying Kipper. Henry is then told by his driver that the next morning he'll be pulling the Flying Kipper. In the episode, we have the scene between Henry and his driver before we are shown the harbour.
Come on, come on. Don't be silly, 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 don't be silly.
All right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right.
The journey goes very well until a set of frozen points causes Henry to crash into a goods train. Inside the brake van are the train's driver, fireman and guard.
The Flying Kipper is due,
said the guard.
Who cares about the Flying Kipper,
said the fireman.
This is good cocoa.
They leave the van, according to the narrator, just in time, though they are not shown doing so. In the book, they do not leave the van and are catapulted out when Henry collides with the train. All the men are unharmed, as even Henry's crew jumps out before the crash, though the fireman lands headfirst into the snow and gets stuck. The fireman of the goods train shouts at Henry for spilling his cup of cocoa. These moments do not happen in the episode. The breakdown gang clear away the trucks and lift Henry back onto the rails. In the episode, Henry is still lying on his side when Sir Topham Hatt comes to talk to him. The poor green engine is shown to be very unhappy. However, in Dalby's illustration, he seems to be putting on a brave face.
I'm sending you to Crewe, a fine place for sick engines. They'll give you a new shape and a larger firebox, and then you'll feel a different engine, and you won't need special coal anymore. Now, Won't that be nice, hmm?
The next two stories were combined into one episode of Thomas and Friends. The first was originally called Gordon's Whistle.
It's not that it's wrong to whistle at stations, but we just don't do it.
After criticising Henry for whistling too much, Gordon gets his comeuppance when his whistle valve breaks. According to the narration and illustration, Gordon is purple in the face because he is so annoyed. His face remains the same greyish colour in the episode, and he looks more scared than angered. A series of small events occur due to Gordon whistling all over Sodor, such as people looking out of their houses, firefighters thinking there's an air raid, and horses bolting. This does not happen in the episode.
Take him away and stop that noise. Oh, dear.
Sir Topham Hatt orders Gordon's crew to get him out of the station. In the book, the Fat Controller has to get into Gordon's cab as his crew can't hear him from the platform.
It isn't wrong, you know, but we just don't do it.
Percy and the Trousers wasn't adapted until the third series of Thomas and Friends in 1991, where its title was changed to A Scarf for Percy. It is unusual that it was included in this particular book, as it is obviously more about Percy than Henry, who barely appears in it at all. The episode begins on a very cold winter morning where Thomas and Percy are waiting for their fires to be lit. Meanwhile, Sir Topham Hatt is going to give some visitors a tour of the island, and is taking along his smartest pair of trousers in a suitcase. Neither of these sequences happen in the book, as it begins with the scene after this one, where Percy and Henry have an argument about scarves and funnels.
My funnel's cold, he would puff. I want a scarf, I want a scarf. Rubbish, Percy, said Henry one day. Engines don't want scarves. Engines with proper funnels do, said Percy in his cheeky way. You've only got a small one.
Percy bumps into a trolley full of luggage and gets covered with jam and a pair of trousers. In the book, the Fat Controller tells Percy off for playing Grandmother's Footsteps. This game, which involves sneaking up on your opponent as quietly as possible, is still played today around the world, though it does go by many different names. The reference was not made in the episode, and whereas here the book's story concludes, there is a final scene between Percy, Thomas, and Henry. Another main difference of this adaptation is the weather conditions, as although it is just said to be cold in the book, the episode shows the ground is covered with frost.
Driver says the weather will be warmer tomorrow. You won't need a scarf, Percy. Certainly not, replied Percy. Engines don't need scarves. Engines need warm boilers. Everyone knows that.
The final story of this book is the second half of the episode Whistles and Sneezes, originally named Henry's Sneeze. Some boys throw stones on Henry and his train. In the book, one of the stones hits the fireman on the head, which the driver bandages once they have stopped the train. Something else missing from the episode is that the driver explains just how he is going to make Henry sneeze.
Henry draws air in through his fire and puffs it out with smoke and steam. Well, when he puffs hard, the air blows ashes from his fire into the smoke box, and these ashes sometimes prevent him puffing properly. If Henry's smoke box is blocked, I can make air and steam blow the ashes through his funnel.
It is likely that this was not included because the episode was already short on time, due to it combining two stories into one.
Henry is as excited as we are, aren't you, old fellow?
In the book, instead of ignoring the driver, Henry winks at him. After completing the mission successfully, Henry has the soot washed off his paint. There is no dirt shown on Henry after they blow the soot on the boys, and the episode ends concluding both Henry's sneeze and Gordon's whistle.
All he could do was to go slowly onto a siding.